So fine, let us start with TestNG. TestNG is used for building test cases. Okay, it's a plugin which is installed inside Eclipse. Okay, let me give you a fair idea that how TestNG works and what it is all about. Right. I'll open a Microsoft Paint. Till now, we have seen individual commands in Selenium. We did not see how to build test cases. Practically, what we want is that we want certain set of test cases to be executed. Right. For example, this will be a test case 1, and this will be test case 2. Fine, test case 3. You want them to be operated or executed in a certain order. Okay. Along with it, fine, you want that some reports have to be generated. Okay, right. Along with that, you have to make sure that the data is coming from the Excel file. All right. Reports should be HTML reports. They should be having logs, screenshots. All right, everything. Data should be read from some Excel file or properties file or XML text file, whatever it is, from some external source inside these test cases. Moreover, you would want that you also want to generate or integrate grid with it, Selenium grid, which is used to run the test cases parallelly and save time. You would also want to integrate Jenkins. So to configure all these things and to coordinate between all these things, what we do is that we use a centralized controller in between. This centralized controller is actually known as TestNG. People also use other things like JUnit or you can say BDD, Cucumber. Okay, so there are different things apart from TestNG. So let us study TestNG and then I will move forward. Okay, right. Now, the first thing is what this TestNG does is that this centralized controller, it will coordinate everything. It will read the data from the Excel file. Okay, then after reading the data, it will call the respective test case. Fine. Okay. And then after that, just 1 minute. Yeah, just a minute. This line is not coming up. Okay. So it will call the test cases. It will help you generate some reports, connect with Grid, Jenkins. So it's like a centralized controller. All right. So the first thing is that you have to install it as a plugin. TestNG has to be installed as a plugin. Fine. So you need to go to Google, right, and type TestNG Eclipse. Fine. And this is the first link. Go here, click on the bird link, install the plugin. Fine. And this is the link. Okay, right click on this, copy the link location, right, and go to help, install new software, right, and copy this link, hit the enter button. It will fetch everything and all. Okay, in the end you will see TestNG being written over here. All right, then after that, click on that. After clicking on that, click on next, 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 next. Okay, and it will install as a plugin inside Eclipse. Fine. All right, now you create a new Java project. Okay, we'll start off with TestNG. It will get installed. Your Eclipse will also restart. Okay, you just write TestNG Eclipse. Right. I'll just create this project. Fine. In TestNG, you don't have any main function. All right. I just need to create a new class known as, or a new package first. Let us create a new package. Call it as test cases. Fine. In which you can put up some test cases. Right. For example, I'll put up a new class known as shop phone.java. Okay, right. So this is a test case in which suppose we are going and shopping for a phone online. All right, fine. Now in TestNG you have at the rate test annotations. For example, public void say uh, search on Amazon. Okay, on Amazon.com I'm going to say search for a mobile phone. Fine. Okay, right. Now you can import this. You can add a TestNG library in the project and you can import this test annotation. Right, and you just, this test annotation means a test case. This function will be represented as a test case. There is no main function. Okay, there is nothing known as a main function in TestNG. Alright, there are annotations like we have this at the rate test annotation. Okay, fine. Now I can print inside this system.out.println. Hold on. Searching on Amazon. Okay, and right click on this Java file. Run it as a TestNG test. Okay, right. And you will see that in the console it will be printed total test runs are 1, failures are 0, and skips are 0. And if you move above, you will see that it is printing searching on Amazon. Right. Okay, this is printed. So there is no main function. You just have to right click on the file, select the option, run as TestNG test case. Okay, right. So now this is one test. Okay, you can have multiple tests. For example, test public void search mobile. Okay, and another test case public void checkout. Fine, so these are the three tests which can be implemented in a single file, and I can just print over here search mobile phone, and I can print over here checkout. Alright, fine. Now I can right click on this Java file, select the option, run as TestNG test, and this will run. Okay, and see it is saying total test runs are 3, failures are 0, skips are 0. Alright, fine. So this means that these three tests have executed. And if you look at the output, it will see it's printing, checking out, searching on the phone, and search mobile phone, searching on Amazon. So look, the thing is, the order the order of the test is not from top to bottom. Okay, the order of execution is not from top to bottom. All right, fine. It is like random. Don't think that the test cases will execute from top to bottom. All right, fine. Okay, so you have to prioritize them. You have to write over here priority equals to 1, and you'll have to prioritize this one as well, that priority equals to 2, then priority equals to 3. Fine. Okay, so now if I run this, if I right click on this Java file and I run it as a TestNG test, you will see that it prints total test runs are 3, failures are 0, and skips are 0. All right, fine. Now in TestNG you can also do validations. Fine. For example, I'll just create a new class known as sample test. Alright, inside it I will create @test annotation, public void sample test. Okay, and import the test annotation. Print over here A, B. Fine, and I will run this. So it will say test runs are 1. Alright, and it will print both A and B. Now suppose you have to validate few things. What is testing? In testing we have an actual value, some expected value. You compare the actual value with the expected value. Alright, that is what testing is. Right, you have the actual value which comes up from the applications or something, and you have the expected value which comes up from, say, Excel file or something. You have to compare both of them, and if both of them are not equal, you have to fail this test case. There is a tab over here, results of running the class. Okay, if you click on this, you will see some diagrammatic results. Okay, so green means that sample test was passing, but how do I fail it? Okay, for that we use the assertions. There is a class known as assert. You write assert dot assert equals. Make sure that assert equals function, this one, you are importing from org.testng. Sometimes people import it from JUnit as well. Okay, so you write assert equals and send some actual value and some expected value. If both of them are matching and if I run the test, it will run. But if both of them don't match, it will throw an error, it will throw a failure. Alright, fine. And in results of running test, you will be seeing a failure. Okay, fine. I hope you have got my point. Right. Now it will print A, but it won't print B. If assertion fails, the program stops. Okay. If assertion fails, then the program will stop. All right. Now, what if I don't want to stop it? Sometimes the failures are not so critical. We'll talk about that. It is managed through soft assertions. Fine. Now there is one more type of assertion you can write over here. Assert dot assert true. You give some condition, for example 3 greater than 2, and some message. This is actually your error message. Fine. So 3 greater than 2 is true. If it is true, then assertion will pass. There will be no error. Whatever condition you are giving, right? If that condition is evaluating to true, then there will be no error. Okay, if I run this code, then it will pass fully. But if I write 3 greater than 12, alright, this is evaluating to false. If you run this, this is evaluating to false. Okay, so the error will be thrown. Error message will be printed over here, whatever error message you are giving. In the failure also, you will be able to see error message, right? So you can use this assertion sometimes, like we made a function, right? You can make a function, for example, is element present. You can send the XPath of the element in this. If the element is not present, it will throw an exception. If it returns false that the element is not present, then it will throw an exception. All right, fine. So I'll comment this. Fine. Now this is done, this is done, this is done. Okay. So now sometimes you are very sure. Sometimes you are very sure that the test is failing. Suppose you were there on a page and uh, you get a 404 error that the page is not found. So you are very sure that the test has failed. Okay, so you can write over here assert.fail some error message. Whatever error message you will write will come up in the reports, and when you run this code, it will fail and it will print total test runs are 1, failures are 1. Right. Okay. I hope you have understood me. All right. Now, the problem is when this assertion fails, A is printed but B is not printed. Okay. Now sometimes the failures are not very critical. For example, the title of the page is not matching, or there is some minor error which you can uh, accept. Okay. Or suppose you have to report multiple failures inside a single test case. Right, so over there we use something known as soft assertion. There is a class known as soft assertion. You create an object of that class, right? Okay, and then you you can use soft assertion like soft assert dot assert equals function. You can also use over here. Okay, in soft assertion there is assert equals function as well. You can compare actual and expected value. You can write soft assertion dot assert true as well. For example, 3 greater than 2. This will be some error message, right? And you can also write soft assert dot fail if you want to introduce a failure. Okay, you can put this. So all these errors, all these failures will come up in the reports. This step is going to generate a failure. This step will be pass. This step will be failure. So two failures will come up in the report. Okay, fine. And in the end, you need to write soft assert dot assert all. If you don't write this, then assertions will not work. Suppose if I run this, you will see that the test passes. Okay, fine. It is passing. Fine. And now if I write over here soft assert dot assert all, it will actually introduce the failure. It will check every assertion condition, and if I run this, you will see that it runs and it invokes a failure. All right, fine. I hope you have got me. Okay. Now, if I come back to shop phone example, all right. So this is a test case. Searching on Amazon, search mobile phone, checkout, right? And if I write over here assert dot assert equals or assert dot fail, if I fail this test case with some error message, and when you run this code, this will print some error message over here, and the next two tests will pass. But this doesn't make any sense. The first test is failing. The next two test cases are passing, but the next two test cases were dependent on the first test. Okay, right. Now you have to, if you want to fail them, as well, or if you want to skip them because this one is failing, so these two tests should not be executed. So you can introduce dependency. You can write over here that this test is dependent on the methods search on Amazon. You can give the list of methods on which this test case is dependent, and this one as well, search mobile. Alright, fine. So now this test case, I'm saying it's dependent on both of them. This is on this. If any one of them fails, right, any of them fails, the other two will be skipped. You see that failures are 1, skips are 2. Okay. And if you look at the output, you will see that these two tests are skipping. So you can introduce the dependency between the test cases as well when you are working with TestNG. Alright, now in TestNG there are other annotations as well. Fine, there are other annotations as well. For example, you have uh, at the rate before, I'll just write public void before. You can give the function any name, okay, and I will just print inside it and you have at the rate after test, right, and inside it I'll print after test. And when you run this, hold on, let me comment this assertion part. When you run this, you'll see the output like this, that is before test and after test will be printed before and after executing all the test cases. Okay, suppose you have a scenario where you have to open the browser, execute all the test cases, and in the end you have to mandatorily close the browser. So no matter whether the test cases passes or fails, the after test will be executed for sure, and before test will be executed for sure. So in before test you can open the browser, and after test you can close the browser. There is a predefined order in which these annotations work. Before test works before all the test cases, after test works after all the test cases. Alright, similarly you have got annotations like at the rate before method, alright, which obviously means something which is executed. I'll show you, hold on, I'll show you. Public void, you can give function any name, hold on, and you can have after method. Okay, and you can print inside it after method. So when you run this code, before method and after method will be executed before and after executing every test case. So this can also be important, like For example, for every test case, you want to generate a new portion in the report. You want every test case to have a different report. So in before method, you can initialize the reports, and after method, you can finalize the reports. We will see this in the framework and all which we do. So right now my focus is just to tell you how TestNG can be used. I'll tell you how it can be used with Selenium as well. Okay. Now you can batch run the tests as well in testing. Okay. Or you can what you can do is you can parameterize your data as well. Okay. That is say I'll create a new class sample test. Um, okay, I'll call it say login test. Suppose I have to execute this login test more than once with different sets of data. Okay, if I have to execute this test case more than once with different sets of data, then I can have @test annotation, public void login test. Okay, right. And I will import this. Now suppose I have to execute it with different sets of data. I have to execute this test case 3 times or 4 times. Then what we do is that we keep the data in a two-dimensional object array. Okay, the two-dimensional object array looks something like this. Okay, it has got some rows and it has got some columns. Okay, the data for the first execution will be in the first row, second execution, second row, third execution, third row. So basically number of rows are equal to number of times you want to run the test. And number of columns will be equal to number of parameters in the test case. For example, you have username 1, password 1, say browser, then a username 2, password 2, and then the browser like Chrome. So you can have something like this. Okay, right. So how do you do that? You do that with the help of a data provider. You have a data provider annotation which helps you to parameterize the test case, that is, run one test case multiple times with different sets of data. Right. Now you can write public object get data. Fine. And in this you can make a two-dimensional object array with say 3 rows and 2 columns. So this data provider will help you to parameterize. I'm sorry, it's not made like this. So this data provider will actually help you to run the test case multiple times. Okay, right. This get data function in this data provider is implemented in such a way that it makes a two-dimensional array, and you put the data in the two-dimensional array in this. Like this is the first row, you can write over here data uh, 0 0, that is the sorry, I'm sorry, there was some delay. Data 0 0 is equal to u1, and data 1 zeros. This is the first row equals to password 1. Okay, so similarly you have three rows. The first parameter is 3. There are three rows. So you can fill this up like this. You can have, hold on, you can have the second row. Okay, data 1 0 is u2 and 1 1 is p2, right? Similarly, you can have the third row, u3 and p3, right? And you write over here return data. Okay, fine. So this test has got this data provider. Fine, it has got three rows of data. Fine, and number of columns over here should be equal to number of input parameters in the test. Okay, if there are two input parameters, I will provide two columns. All right, and over here you can write that data provider is equal to get data. Fine. So this is the data provider, which is equal to get data. This is the login test. Okay, you link this login test to this data provider. Fine. And if you run this, TestNG will automatically run this with different sets of data. Right. U1. Oh, I'm sorry. This should be 0 0. Okay, I'm sorry. It will run it like with different sets of data. You don't have to do anything else. Okay, it will automatically read that the data provider for this test is this. It will go in the data provider, find out, okay, I have to run it three times. So first it will invoke the data with this set of, it will invoke it with this set of data. Then it will invoke with this set of data. Afterwards, it will invoke with this set of data automatically. So you don't have to worry. All right. So this is about TestNG. You build test cases like this. Okay, there are lots of other things which I don't want to go into right now. Okay, fine. Now the next thing. Okay, the next thing is when we are providing the data in the data provider, generally we don't hard code values. Like I am hard coding the values over here. Generally we don't. What we do is that we read the data from the Excel file and then we input the data in this object array from the Excel file. Okay, right. So how do we do that? How do we input the data from the Excel file into this object array? Well, hold on. we use something known as POI API for that. POI API, like for example, Selenium is an API, right? Similarly, POI is an API. All right. So Apache POI is used for reading or writing Microsoft documents. Okay, I'll teach you that. All right. Or can I do one thing? Hold on.